Okay. I'm sorry. I'll be calm, stoic. Okay. Hi, it's Dragon Keeper 96600. We're back with episode 4. The review of episode 4 of Combiner Wars, and the episode's titled Unforgotten. So it's kind of a shake-up because the last 3 episodes have been like the noun and have followed like that title structure. But this one is called Unforgotten, and this episode was a total delight. I just needed to come out right out of the gate and say that, and I won't leave you in suspense anymore. I freaking loved this episode, and I'm so glad that I can be so enthusiastic about a show that started off so with like kind of a thud type noise. Anyway. Okay. So, I said last week that last week was the best episode so far. I'm so thrilled that I get to say that again, and I actually enjoyed this episode way more than last week's. So, let me start off like I usually do with a brief plot summary. Basically, in this last episode, Optimus said that he was going to go off and find someone. Apparently what they needed was firepower, who could help them destroy the Enigma combination. So last week, I guessed that it was Victorion they were going to go get. I was totally wrong. They're actually going to get Megatron. And that's so... I don't even know what to think of that Megatron is the first person that Optimus thought of. Even though he doesn't command an army anymore. He's in exile, just like Optimus. But he's like, nope, we need Megatron. He's good at breaking stuff. That's what we need. So, a lot of actually... there was a brief bit of intrigue, I think I mentioned this last week, but I don't remember, where, in the preview where, Optimus, stands over Megatron, and Megatron's like, pull the trigger, Prime, and then it cuts to black. This episode flashes back to that moment, and though it doesn't clearly show or say what happens next, it does, absolutely say, yes, Megatron's alive, which is what the Mistress of Flame said before, and, so Optimus didn't kill him, and they find Megatron. Optimus and Megatron fight, and then Megatron agrees to help them destroy the Enigma. And exactly why he agrees, I'll get to that in a moment. But it's a pretty simple plot, just like last episode, and I actually noticed it follows kind of a similar plot structure. 2 characters meet up, in this case 3 characters, but it's mostly Optimus and Megatron, though Windblade doesn't just stay at the sidelines 2 episodes. The whole episode she gets involved too. But anyway, 2 characters meet up, they think they disagree, they fight, and they find out at the end that they do agree that the whole confrontation could have been avoided, and then a stronger team is formed, new allies are formed and stuff. And actually, I feel like this kind of lampshades it, where last episode in the duel, both Optimus and Windblade were hostile to each other, though Windblade was a little bit more aggressive than Optimus. Optimus wanted Windblade to stop and go home, and Windblade wanted to fight him because Windblade's... We'll get to that in a minute. But here, Optimus straight up says, I'm not here to fight, and then Megatron promptly tries to fight him anyway. And this is what I want to get, I think was the episode's the strongest point of the episode. The main thing that made it really work was how they characterized Megatron. And I know that's weird from a show that hasn't been doing great at characterization so far, but, how I said Optimus is based more on, Prime Optimus? Well, Megatron in this seems to be based more on, Unicron Trilogy Megatron, Armada Megatron specifically. And I know that's weird considering his design. He looks like G1 Megatron. But when it comes to his personality and the things he says, especially to Prime, it comes across as very Armada. First of all, Megatron spends all his free time now that he is no longer leader basically looking for people to punch. They first come across him and he's fighting the Constructicons. Again, for reasons we don't know. It just seems to be what he likes to do. And he seems disappointed that he beats them so easily. And then he sees Optimus and he's like, yes! He's like, Optimus, let's throw down. Megatron is just a total nostalgic old man throughout this entire episode, and I sort of love it. He's constantly like, remember the old days when we used to hit each other? Can we do that? Hit me, Prime, right here. Please. He just wants attention. He's so cute. And, he actually seems like the liveliest and happiest character. Characters in this show don't smile, as a general rule. The closest we got was Menasor and Starscream's, Decepticon smirks that I think they teach them at Decepticon Academy. Megatron seems positively joyful compared to them. He's so, like, oh, there's one, like, moment that I really love, is a powerful moment where, like, Megatron says that he feels free now that he's no longer leader, and he just likes having nothing to do. He's totally enjoying his retirement. He's like, he also says that freedom is all he ever wanted, which is an interesting insight to his character. The reason he's been, like, conquering people and stuff is basically so he can do whatever he wants. And, like, that, I feel like that kind of leaps off of, Prime Megatron, who, like, obviously started with more noble reasons, but it seems like Frank Welker doesn't voice Megatron. I'll get to the voice acting in a bit, but, like, I think once what Frank Welker said about, I don't remember if it was Prime Megatron or G1 Megatron, but I'm thinking it was G1 Megatron, was that Megatron is mean and evil because, quote unquote, he has a lot of hurt inside him. And I feel like this episode kind of hinted at that more subtly than Prime did, where they were very overt with it, whereas this is, like, more like, it's kind of one line and kind of just the way the character carries himself. There's a lot of pathos here is what I'm saying. But I compared him to Armada Megatron because, like, what he says to Prime about, like, he wants Prime to fight him. Prime says no. Megatron says, come on, I know you want to. And he, like, starts telling Optimus about how he's nothing without war and that this is what he was meant to do and that, basically comparing Optimus to himself and saying that Optimus is a more pathetic version of him because he doesn't go all the way. And that's kind of a paraphrase of what Galvatron, I guess, said to Optimus in the last episode of Armada, where he says, come on, I know you want to fight me. Or do you actually like me? You don't. Like, let's be honest here. You don't. And, like, that whole dynamic is really interesting. And I hate to keep comparing it to Prime, but, like, it's kind of different in the sense that, like, Prime and Megatron and Optimus and Prime are, like, very much equals who, like, have this mutual respect for each other, whereas in, I feel like in Combiner Wars, from what we've seen from this 1 5-minute episode, it seems a little bit more masochistic, especially with Megatron. He's way too eager to jump into violence. Like, it's a little concerning.
No one challenge me, the mighty Megatron. Now that's more like it.
This episode's really, like, full of personality. Like, not just Optimus, but it's kind of infectious. Like, I mentioned Windblade doesn't just stand on the sideline. She gets involved too. And, like, I love how there's one shot I just love. It's just a shot, one shot, no real dialogue, but Optimus and Megatron are fighting in the background. And Windblade is in the foreground just leaning against a pillar. Like, she's just bored and she's waiting for these old guys to finish. Like, you could tell she's impatient. Optimus and Megatron have, like, personal baggage that she was not involved in, nor does she care about. And she's like, come on, people are dying, clock's ticking. And there's something, I'm going to talk about Megatron some more. There's something very cheesy about Megatron, like, old man cheesy, like, not poor cheesy, like, he seems snarky in a great way, and, like, he just has, like, these moments where he just totally takes, like, just watch.
Ah, the speaker who became the killer. Big fan of your work, do keep it up.
Arrogant relic! You have no idea who you're talking to.
I meant keep up the killing, not the speaking. That doesn't suit you.
Okay, I love that everyone seems to know Windblade as the speaker who kills people now. Like, that aspect of her character has bothered fans of the comics and, like, Transformers fans. And I love that it's just spread throughout, and, like, everybody gives her shit for it. Menasor, Optimus, Megatron. I mean, when does it end? Like, they take her back to Cybertron, they're ribbing her constantly. Hey, Windblade, that guy totally looked at you funny. You want to kill him or something? Stop it. Hey, I think that guy cut you in line. Why don't you kill him? Maybe the postman will come tomorrow and he'll deliver the package late. You can go ahead and kill him too. Would that be fun, Windblade? For God's sakes. You know, that kind of thing. it's constant ribbing, and it's fun. And like, speaking of cheese, like this episode, it literally ends, like they all team up, right? And so it literally ends with them transforming and them riding away into the sunset. We're halfway through the series, like, because this was supposed to be like an 8-episode miniseries. And like, that seems like that would be in the finale of an animated movie from the 80s. Like, I'm thinking like what are those names, like Fatal Fury, like the fighting game movies. Like, those movies ended like that, and those were super duper cheesy and like literally totally sincere, no irony anywhere. That's how the episode ends. And it's, you know what? It's tacky. I'll take it. Like, they're having fun. We're having fun right now. And that is way more than we were having in like episode 1 where like 13 people died. 13 people. Or episode 2 where they had a fucking board meeting. Like, this is what we wanted. This is what we want out of Transformers. Just, I want the characters to be having fun. And like, they even kind of lampshade that, like, Megatron, who is constantly ribbing everyone. I mean, I love him so much. He makes fun of Optimus's transform and rollout line, and Windblade's reaction is to giggle. That's the happiest we've seen her so far. And I love, there's actually this kind of cute moment where Optimus looks over at her laughing at him, and she just like looks away like, no, not having fun. Like this tsundere. And it's cute, and it's a character moment, and it's like, they could have had moments like that in episode 2. I'm so mad because now I know that they could have had them and they just didn't. I don't know why they did that. Like, Starscream has no personality, and Megatron is ruddy with life. Why would you, why? Why would you do, okay. But I do need to talk about, like, some more things that I like. I will get into negative, and there is negative. Even though I love this episode, I do have some criticisms. But, okay, I didn't tell you right away why Megatron agreed to help them destroy the Enigma. First of all, he seemed, honestly, most of you have already seen the episode, so you know already. For those of you who don't, first of all, once they told Megatron, we need your help, Megatron went, nah, not interested. He didn't care what it was. He didn't know. He doesn't seem to care about Cybertron. Optimus insists that he does, but I'm willing to go with Megatron on this one. Like, he doesn't give a shit. But then Optimus says Starscream has the Enigma combination. He doesn't say the Council. He says Starscream. And the moment he says that, Megatron is totally on board because he doesn't care about the fate of Cybertron. He just doesn't want Starscream to have a thing. And I love that. That's a totally selfish reason, and also a totally plausible reason why he would help them. And like, a lot of people are like complaining that like Starscream is getting a lot of shit in this series for no reason, because he's like, and it's true, Starscream does seem to be like the most reasonable character with the exception of maybe Optimus. He wanted to research the Enigma of Combination. He was urging Rodimus and Mistress of Flame to calm down from their insane, stupid ideas. He seems to have gained a new sobriety and sense of responsibility and all this stuff, and yet everyone's constantly shitting on him. Windblade shoots him by accident. Both she and Optimus specifically name-drop Starscream and no one else when they're talking about their fears of what the Council will do. Megatron mentions that he hates Starscream more than anyone. Like, yay, nobody likes Starscream. And everyone's like, complaining, well, not everyone, but I've seen people on Tumblr complain about this, but I actually think it's kind of brilliant, because I mentioned way back in the Starscream preview, it's like, I don't like him like this, I want him to fuck up, and that seems to be how the characters feel. They have the same preconception of Starscream that we went into this series with. Now, I still think it would be more powerful if we actually saw Starscream being a little shit, but it actually sort of works in a way, like, that we see Starscream as responsible, but they're relying on our past idea of him to justify how the other characters think. And, like, there's this weird moment where they're, like, playing off the fans' expectations. Like, before they were just relying on fans having knowledge that they don't give them the show, but now they were, like, relying on fans' expectations as well. Because, like, I didn't mention this because I didn't think of it, because I had a lot to say, but in the duel last week, there's one moment where, like, Optimus, like, Windblade says everyone has an excuse to have the war going, and Optimus throws that right back at her by saying, and you've never been like this, you were never this blood hungry before. And that's something that a lot of people said before this show even aired. Like, fans are like, Windblade's a pacifist, isn't she? Like, her going all Eren Yeager on these combiners seems out of character. And, like, Optimus just told her she's acting out of character. Like, Are Machinima geniuses? Have they been playing this for Saps all this time? I don't think so. But it's starting, like, it's uncanny that this is happening. That they're manipulating us like this, or at least our expectations. Wow, I've already talked a lot. I wasn't looking at the time. Oh, Jesus. So, yes. I probably should get in the negative. I said I would. First of all, it's become kind of a weekly occurrence, and you're expecting it, but I'm going to talk about the voice acting again. I love Megatron, and the voice acting isn't too bad. It's actually pretty good. He can get across, emotion, and it sounds like John Bailey is trying to do an Optimus Prime impression, a Peter Cullen impression. The voice actor for Megatron, I don't remember his name at the moment. He sounds like he was maybe inspired by Frank Welker or maybe Hugo Weaving, but he's not really doing an impression of either of them. He's just kind of doing this, like, guttural, growly, like, Prime! That kind of voice. It sounds very, like, rocky, like, literally, like, gravelly. Like, if you had a tin full of gravel and you shook it, that would be what Megatron sounds like. And it's fine. But there are moments where, like, first time I saw this episode, because I watched these episodes multiple times before I review them, there were a few lines that kind of escaped my comprehension. Like, I've made fun of, like, the delivery of actors before, like Menosaurus and this weird lisp, and, like, Mistress of Flame and her, like, ActorBot 5000 voice, but, like, Megatron, I think, was the first voice that I straight up had difficulty comprehending, like, whole sentences.
You could learn a thing or two from that one. You I hate with all my heart, Prime. But if there's one thing I hate more, it's that idiot Starscream.
I could understand it, like, if I watched the episode multiple times, but first time I was like, what? Those aren't words, darling. They're not. Second of all, there's a few animation gaps. Like, the fight scene is pretty good. It's just they're just hitting each other, and, like, but the interest is the dialogue and the lore being explored. The textures on the world, I don't know where they are, they're freaking awful. I mean, the textures on the characters look fine. It's very smooth and cartoony. It's not too detailed, but it doesn't need to be. It looks good. But on the world, it looks bad. It's like this repeating pattern. It looks very Ocarina of Time-ish, maybe fittingly enough from Machinima. There's, like, one bit, I don't remember exactly when it is, when, like, I think it's either Optimus or a Constructicon. I think it's Optimus, but I don't remember. Who gets thrown into, like, a wall, and, like, there's, like, a debris effect where, like, chunks of the wall fly off, and they look like they're made of styrofoam. Like, it looks like they used a prop, and I know they didn't because they animated this. But, like, chunks of it, like, seem to fly off in, like, slow motion and, like, float gently down. It's only, like, a shot that lasts, like, a second, but it bugged the fuck out of me. Also, again, we have some weird dialogue issues. Like, the dialogue flows well compared to, like, the council, but there are a few moments where it's a little shaky. Like, there's one moment where, like, when Blade says, "We need your help," and Megatron says, "You're asking for my help?" Like, I know the way I said it seemed reasonable, but the way they delivered it, it sounded redundant.
We need your help.
Are you asking me for help?
Megatron, throughout this episode, is taunting Optimus, but it seems like at some point he loses track of exactly what he's taunting him about. First, he's saying that he's nothing without war. Okay, fair assumption. This episode implies that Optimus put himself in exile because he didn't trust himself to be a leader during peacetime. Like, he wanted to leave it alone because he was afraid he would mess it up. He doesn't say that explicitly, but it's pretty strongly implied from the way from the way Megatron taunts him about not being able to kill him right before uppercutting him and, like, all that stuff. So, but then that leads into Megatron's next accusation of Optimus is that he's given up, that he doesn't have enough determination to actually see a peaceful Cybertron. So it's like, does he crave war, or does he not believe in peace, or what are you saying exactly? I feel like Megatron is just giving Optimus shit about whatever he can think of, but I don't know. I feel like there's supposed to be a cohesive point being made here, and maybe I'm just having trouble following it, but it seems like he jumped from one point to another point very quickly. I think you'll have to hear the whole conversation to hear what I'm talking about. It's like, first it's like, you crave war, and he's like, no, I want peace. I'm trying to puzzle it out right now. He's like, you don't believe in peace because you gave up, but if he gave up, that would imply that he's looking for peace in the first place. I don't know. Like I said, it seems like Megatron is trying to say Optimus is like him, except a wuss. There's one, like, subtle moment of, like, I like moments that come through dialogue, but I also like moments that come through action. And there's one moment I really like where, like, in the last episode where Optimus snapped the gun in half and Windblade got mad, that was good. There's another moment kind of like this, in spirit, though not really in content, where, like, Windblade is approaching Megatron after he says he won't help, and she's mad, and then Optimus says, Starscream has the enigma combination, and Megatron is, like, taken aback by that. He immediately zeroes in on Starscream's name, and he goes, what? And as he's turning around and saying, what? He's so distracted by the mention of Starscream that Windblade is able to knock him to the ground. Now, keep in mind, Optimus and Megatron are equals, and in fact, Megatron seems to be able to throw Optimus around pretty well in this episode. Last episode, Windblade fought Optimus and couldn't land one hit on him, but here she was able to hit Megatron in the face hard enough to knock him down because Megatron was so distracted with Starscream's name, and that is subtlety. I love that. He doesn't even say anything about it. Yeah, action flows pretty well. Lots of great character moments. Seems like there are a few spotty moments, but otherwise I was really impressed plotting this episode as a whole. One more point I just want to mention. It's not really related to anything, but actually, I do want to talk about one other thing that is relevant. Once again, the main problem with Combiner Wars comes down to the Combiners. Why is Megatron fighting the Constructicons? Where do they even come from? Can you hear my stomach growling? I really hope you can. Sorry. But yeah, he shows up fighting the Constructicons, and, like, when Optimus, he doesn't actually kill any of them. Like, we haven't had a death since the first episode, which is odd because the first episode's death count was so high. But anyway, the Constructicons are lying on the ground and they hear Optimus name drop the enigma combination, and they respond. Like, they don't speak, which is weird, but they light up and beep to each other and, like, seem very interested. And, like I just really have a problem with the way the Combiners are portrayed in the show. Like, we still haven't seen a Combiner combine. We're halfway through. And, like, I thought maybe we would, because we see the Constructicons. It's clearly them. They're not name-dropped, but they are interested in the combination, and they're green and purple, and they're construction vehicles. It's them. And, like, what are they doing here? And where are they going? And what do they want? And every time the title characters show up, I don't know what they're doing. I'm like, and they're supposed to be the driving threat behind the plot. Everyone's afraid of them. War is breaking out in Cybertron, a war that we only saw through a few pulsating lights, but a war. And things are going to shit because of them, and I don't know what motivates them. I have no idea. I need a drink. And maybe this will come across, because I didn't think there are a lot of elements in this show that were missing that are appeared now, but they should have been there sooner. Like, I get that the fight between Menasor and Computron way back in the fall was supposed to show the depths of this conflict, but because only Windblade and Maximo were there, and because the Combiners ended up killing each other, well, Windblade ended up killing Menasor because she's a killer, she's good at it, the threat seems kind of, like, self-effacing. I mean, I get what they were trying to do. They say war is terrible and everyone suffers. Not just the weaker parties, but the people who are causing the fighting are suffering too. But, like, the thing is, this series actually shares a problem with Prime, and that's animating extras is hard. So a lot of the places, like Communist and Cybertron or wherever the fuck this episode took place, they seem very empty. Like, if you're not a character, important character, you're just plain not there. And, like, when it would help give the war gravity if we saw people in Communist suffering, but we only saw one, and it was one we didn't know very well. And I get it. To show accurately the sufferings of a group, you need to, like, have the slave who looks over the sunset and rising over the river instead of analyzing statistics or whatever it was my creative writing teacher told me. But, like, I mean, in this case, you have 5 minutes, and I get it, budget, machinima, but, like, I remember what Ruby did, and I'm talking about Ruby, where, like, when they had extras, they just had, like, shadowy, like, silhouette humans standing around the background. And it didn't look good, and I understand maybe why Machinima didn't want to do that. I didn't necessarily like it, but that was something, and at least it gave the idea that the world was populated, but everything just looks very empty. And, like, if you go back and look at Prime, Jasper, Nevada is a ghost town. Like, there only seems to be maybe one person walking down the street at a time, and it's always someone that Jack is about to talk to. If Jack doesn't talk to anybody, there's nobody. And, like, I feel like, is this a problem more with 3D, like CGI works, than 2D works? Because 2D works, you could just draw the extra characters, but on 3D work, I guess you'd have to model them and animate them and, like, come up with character designs, and maybe that's harder in 3D, or maybe they have less, it just sucks up more money or something. I don't know, but it really does make everything seem less heavy and less important. Yeah, I did want to mention just one brief bit. It was kind of fun. Like, it's just like a quick cameo thing. Like, when Megatron is fighting the Constructicons, one of them stabs him in the back with a sharp thing. The sharp thing that they stab him with looked exactly like the one that Megatron threw into Optimus's side in the 1986 movie. I don't know what kind of homage you would call that, but it happened. So that's a little cool, I guess. I'm not sure. It's a call back because he stabbed him in the back. It's weird. Maybe I'm just imagining it, but it looked like the same thing. It's like, that's the pointy thing I threw through Optimus. Like, that pointy thing is a real villain of this show. So, I keep thinking I'm going to wrap it up, but I keep thinking of new things to talk about because this episode was so good. Okay, so I noticed we now have a trio of folks who want to destroy the Enigmatic Combination. We got Megatron, Optimus, and Windblade. They have a rapport, though it's a little shaky at this point, but I'm hoping they'll solidify it for the remaining 4 episodes. And, they're a team now. On the council, we have Rodimus Prime, Starscream, and Mistress of Flame. You see the pattern? Each of the members of the group that Windblade's in know someone on the council personally. They have, like, counterpoints. And it's like, it's on Windblade's team, it's 2 mentors and a younger person. And on the council, it's 1 mentor, the Mistress of Flame, and 2 younger people, Starscream, who was second in command of Megatron, and Rodimus, who is Optimus' successor. And it's, like, flipped, and it, like, complements each other. And I don't know what that's about. Like, the more experienced side is with Windblade's group, and, like, the younger guys who don't know what the fuck they're doing are with the council. But, like, it's kind of, like, they match up, and that's never explicitly addressed. And, like, whatever kind of relationship that Windblade had with the Mistress of Flame hasn't been brought up because we've only had, like, 20 minutes of footage in this entire series so far, so maybe, I guess there wasn't time, which is a shame. But, yeah, they, like, this could get personal, and since Megatron says that he hates Starscream more than anything, I'm really, really looking forward to him meeting up with Starscream. I need that. And don't you dare disappoint me, Machinima. Now that you've built up my expectations, you're not allowed to be crappy again. So that was Unforgotten. I really liked it. It had some problems, but the good points that it had were like to outshine them, I think, in terms of enjoyability. Still lots of room for improvement, but I love this episode, and I know a lot of other people do because I saw a lot of celebration on Tumblr. I always check Tumblr for when I need opinions on stuff. I'm pathetic. But anyway, really looking forward to next week's episode, and I'm looking forward to the rest of Season 1 of Transformers Robots in Disguise, which I should finish up probably within 2 weeks. So, lots to talk about, lots to enjoy. It's Dragon Keeper 9600, signing off.
Starscream has the Enigma combination.
Hey!
Oh, I like you.